Oh hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you guys how I made this shiny Tyranitar. I printed out a copy of shiny Tyranitar and then I had an old friend help me cut it out. Oh hey, look at that, what's that under there? This is my first time using nail polish in a project, so I wanted to see how it would react with the plastic. And I ended up going with clear tacky glue for the flakes. I used gloves and a respirator as the nail polish smell was really strong. The coats went down evenly, but I had to make sure that it wasn't drying out too quickly. So working with nail polish is kind of strange, because if you work on big objects, it starts to goo up after a little bit. I found that putting it on the back of a pinky was actually one of the better methods because it allowed it to dry out slower. I sacrificed a cheap brush that I had used quite a bit for the finer details, and I knew it wouldn't be very good after this, so just have that in mind. Look at his cute little fingeries, and his arms are just so cute, I love them! Anyway, where was I? After finishing the first coat of paint, I decided it was time to move on to what would really make Tyranitar pop. That's right, you know I'm talking about those beautiful, shiny mica flakes. You just can't beat the gold. Now look at that. Now doesn't that just make your girl so jealous? You know, she told me that a real man would get her gold like that. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to pressure anybody, I'm just saying. I hit Tyranitar with a dab of mascara. And you know I couldn't forget about that luscious red tongue. After I'd finished the eyes and tongue, I added a dab of UV resin to give it that wet look. I used 1-inch foam for the base, and then I did my secret triple tap to knock it out. I roughly outlined the cracks with a pencil first, and then I glued down the card. After the glue was done drying, then I went back over the cracks with a pen. Cutting it out was quite tricky because of how thick the foam was, so to begin with, I just used a standard X-Acto knife. And then after that, I switched to a very thin blade so that I could pierce down all the way to the bottom. To reinforce the cracked look, when I got mostly done cutting, I ripped the chunks apart. To make it look more weathered, I cut little strips and notches out of the side. I really wanted to sell Tyranitar's shiny factor, so I coated him with a gloss varnish. This also has the added benefit of protecting the paint. So I wanted this to look like an earthquake, so I figured that some of the pieces would be shorter and some of the pieces would be taller. So I got a piece of foam core and put it on the bottom of the foam to raise it up. The foam's too flat, so I added some joint compound to make it look like earth. I used a little bit of water to smooth it out. I used a rock and a silicone sculpting tool to try to get some texture on the ground. While the compound was still wet, I pushed Tyranitar's feet into it so that I knew he would have a flat place to stand. I coated the outside of the foam with a black coat of craft paint. And after the compound was dry, I painted it as well, making sure to be very careful not to paint the card. To give it that earth look, I dry brushed a burnt umber onto it. At the time, I really didn't have a good reason for painting the bottom of the rocks black, but I did anyway, but it ended up being really important. So this was my first time using plexiglass, and I didn't know how difficult it was to cut. So as you can see here, I tried and tried with a knife to no avail. So I ended up using a jigsaw to cut out the rest of the plexiglass.
Hello, do you want to play a game?
It made for some cracks and some sloppy cuts, but it did the job. And now on to everyone's favorite peeling ASMR. I UV resined all of the pieces together to make a box for when I poured the resin. Okay, so in this next part, don't do this. I don't know what I was thinking. I tried to use tacky glue to glue down the rocks, but I forgot that resin is a thermal process, and so it just heated up all the glue and it failed anyway. To color the resin, I used orange alcohol ink and some yellow acrylic ink. And then I stirred like my life depended on it. In fact, I stirred like my Nan's life depended on it. I was really scratching my head about how I was supposed to get the resin in here without making a total mess, and I decided to use a syringe. Now this may not have been the best method, as I think it introduced a lot of bubbles. However, I really didn't mind because I was going for a lava bubbly look anyway. As you can see here, as I get towards the end, it really all just starts floating around. It was kind of interesting to try to solve this problem though. And my brilliant solution to the problem is paint. I just put paint on all of the ones that I could, and I let a couple of them stick up, and then I just covered it for the night. Note that I should have been wearing gloves here, but I was just too excited and forgot, so I ended up getting it on my hands. I won't make that mistake next time. Now onto the base. I used a miter saw to cut out all of the pieces. At this point, it was really starting to come together, and I thought it was looking good, so I glued up all of the boards. Ooh, this video is getting a little bit steamy. I think this wood about to make me act up. I used some clamps to make sure it was all tight, and then I left it overnight. Alright, with a little bit of, hold on. This usually works. Okay, let me try that again. Much better. After painting it black, I moved on to salvaging some LED lights that I had used to make whatever this thing is. It was supposed to be a light and it kind of worked, but then I bought actual lights so I didn't need it anymore. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but it was such a pain to get these strips out. And boy, if you thought getting the strips out was a pain, putting them in was even worse. I ended up breaking quite a few of the LED bulbs or whatever they're called while pulling it out, and I feel like I broke just as many putting it in. But you know what? I put this spaghetti snake in and it looked beautiful. I was really pleased with how it was turning out, but obviously I needed to have somewhere for it to rest. So I got some little strips of wood and I painted them black, and then I glued them into the frame. Remember how I said it was important to paint the bottom of them black? Well, I didn't paint these two somehow, and the light really shone through. So something sad happened. I was moving Tyranitar, and all of a sudden, he decided to yeet himself off my computer desk. I couldn't stop him, I tried, but he had a mind of his own. And now with this dramatic recreation, I will show you exactly what happened to Tyranitar. It shattered into 75 billion pieces, and I was left on my hands and knees in a dark, cobwebby space trying to collect them all. But was I deterred? No, I was not. I picked myself up, I dusted off the brown recluses, and I went to work. I fixed that boy up. I took him to the best damned cookie center I could find. And by God, I think they just did the job. With a bit of extra paint, a bit of loving, a kiss on the well, no, I didn't kiss it because that would be gross. But all the other things, I made it work. I pulled this thing out of the bag. We saved him. And with an actual little bit of hot glue this time, I made sure that Chonkasaur was glued down. And now on to the beauty shots. I really enjoyed making this video. If you guys have any other art requests that you can think of, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.